Alright guys, we got our tier list for weapon effects today. Now normally I do top 10, but there's really 11 of them that I feel like are worth mentioning here, each for their own specific reasons. So I'm just gonna get right into what I think are the least to most useful ones out of this top 11. So I'm gonna start here with the bonus one that we're getting use out of, and that's going to be the Karabak weapon. As soon as I can find it here. There it be. So the Karabak weapon is particularly, I had to mention it because if you're not running a Bastion build for a Terra weapon, you're 99% of the time you're going to be running Karabak weapon. The cell effect on it is pretty bad, but the bonus effects are what we're talking about today, and the bonus effect can do quite a bit of bonus damage, assuming you're playing a melee weapon that's going to be right up on there. So it's really good for Chainblade spin to win builds, or strikers, or sword, or something like that, where you're really up in their face and those blades are gonna really do some good damage. But the downside to that is if they happen to run away right as the blades are about to explode, you're kind of out of luck. So with that, we're gonna move on to the next one here, which is the Ember main weapon. Now, this weapon is absolutely fantastic for part break builds if you pay attention to the amount of stacks that you have on there. And I actually have a build for it right here. I'll show you here. You get a +2 cell in there because this particular one triggers at every 6th hit. And different weapons do different amounts. So like let's look at the axe one here, and this will change based on whether or not it's power surged. Where is the little bugger? Oh, there it is. So this one's every 3rd hit in a row does bonus part damage, and that'll go up to 250, I believe, at when you power surge it. So definitely try to get your pulse to the level that it's going to affect either every hit or every other hit. Now there's obviously no way to get it to 3, so you'd want it to be at every 6th hit so that you can kind of match it up with the pulse there. Just really, really good for part break builds. So that's why it's in at number 10. Number 9 is the Rezakiri weapon. Now, this is really the only choice you have when you're doing Radiant weapons, because the Valamir weapon is absolute trash. So that's honestly one reason why it hits number 9, because it's kind of like you're forced into taking this. But it's only a 12% flat increase. So 12% chance to do double damage. That's overall just a flat 12% overall DPS increase, essentially. So it's not super great, but it is the better of the two options when it comes to the Radiant weapons. Next, I'm going to talk about the Koshei weapons. Now, these particular things I would only use on 2 weapons. That's why it falls in at number 8. So the obviously, I've talked about this a lot in my videos. I only use them on axe builds and Reaper stance builds for Chainblades, because they have attacks that you put a lot of resources into to get one really big damaging number, and you really want that big damage bonus on there. So Koshei axe is great for that. Next one we're going to talk about is the Boreas weapon. Now, the Boreas weapon I would only use on fast weapons. Or that's not true. I would only use it on weapons that have some kind of constant ability. They're honestly terrible on repeaters, but if you look at Sword, for example, it's as long as your special ability is up, it's just constantly generating these frostbites, which just keep doing 60 damage consistently. So really good for spin to win builds that are rapidly hitting things, because it's just constantly generating sprites which are just constantly exploding. really, really good for that. It's also really good for Warpike, where it's essentially doing the same thing. You know, every time you store or spend ammo, you're getting that. So you're pretty much, especially for Savage Wellspring builds, you're going to be storing, you're going to be using it just to keep up that Savage Wellspring buff, and that's just going to keep generating the sprites. Not as good as some of the other Warpike weapons, which is why it falls in at number 7, but you know, you gotta get what you gotta get if you really want a Frost build there. Next, we're going to talk about the Skarn weapons. Now, the Skarn weapons are obviously the best choice for Bastion builds. That's what I'm looking for. So run Skarn, run Bastion, and run the Skarn Lantern all at the same time, and you'll get 17 to 1800 shields. Even more if you take Cascade, and the Cascade is at +6 instead of +3, because then those healing orbs will give you 100% shield buffs that last forever until you get hit. So it's a good way to build up the... That's not even the Skarn weapon. That's the Skarn weapon. They look so similar. But yeah, that's the best way to do it, you know. So if you're running Bastion, highly recommend running that combination there. That's why it comes in at number 6, because it kind of works across all weapons for the purpose of the running the Bastion Omnicell. Next we have Rift Stalker, which is not that one. There it is. These are all new icons, so I'm not used to them quite yet. But Assassin's Frenzy is absolutely fantastic. If you watched my video on 12 things you probably didn't know about Dauntless, one of the things is that the description for this makes it seem like it's only once per hit, but you can actually max out the amount of orbs on just one hit, which happens extremely frequently when you're running axe builds. And I prove it in my 12 things you probably didn't know video. I get an axe throw in there, and I go from 0 all the way up to 8 stacks just off the one axe throw. And you're getting that huge damage bonus, but you do have to keep it up. So I personally only recommended this for fast-hitting weapons, but you could, if you were really quick about it, use it with an axe build and get some really good damage bonuses off there. A lot of the really good seasoned veterans like to use this for their axe builds. And speaking of seasoned veteran builds, let's get into number 3, which is the Shroud weapon. Now, this is not something you're typically gonna, just go running around with. This is a very specific build you typically use for these, for doing things like trials to get faster times, or you're trying to, fulfill certain requirements like kill a behemoth in under 3 minutes maybe, that you really want that extra damage bonus. But it does require you to learn what kind of attacks you can take that will take you under 20 health but not kill you. So that is something that it's you kind of have to take with a grain of salt. But it is easily probably the strongest weapon bond in the game. But because it's not usable all the time, and it's not realistic to run just on escalations on handing grounds all the time, that's why I'm placing it at number 4. Now onto the 3 that I like to run on most of my builds. Top 3 here, we're going to get into Hellion. Hellion is absolutely fantastic. Aside from not just talking about the ability, they typically have power cells on them if you don't have the legendary ability to get prismatic, which is fantastic, and the ability on them is usually really bonkers overpowered. You're typically proccing it very quickly. Weapons with higher attack speeds proc less frequently, but that doesn't matter because they attack really fast. Slower weapons occur typically like every 3 or 4 hits, like hammer and axe, but you can kind of control that for certain things. And you can even manipulate it to the point where you can stack it with pulse and get that guaranteed huge damage boost on a crit, which is really tasty, especially with axe. And it's just a really fantastic weapon bond to stick on your Torgadora weapons, or to just play with as a new player. It's a really, really strong weapon. Number 2, I'm getting into, let's see if I can find it really quick here. There we go. The Drask and or Thundering Drask bonds. Typically, I prefer Etheric Attunement to Etheric Evasion because I'm a repeater player, but if you're more confident in getting regular evasions, then go with the Thunder Deep Drask version. But either way, plus 30% damage to behemoth heads is absolutely bonkers good. It's really, really good on axe, really, really good on hammer, really, really good on strikers. I believe the other weapons, it actually affects the tail instead of the head. So for sword, warpike, and chainblades, I do not recommend using the Drask weapons, which is honestly the only reason it's not in the number 1 slot, is because I only find it useful on half the weapons. But for the weapons that it affects, the behemoth heads, massive, massive boost to damage right there. And not only regular damage, but for axe and hammer, you also have to think that affects your stagger damage as well, not just your core damage. So you're getting 30% more stagger damage on the head, which is what you should be hitting anyway, because that's that way you don't take any reduction to the stagger damage. They don't really, I don't know if they explain that in the tutorial very well, but you do significantly reduce stagger damage if you're not hitting them in the head. Really, really good weapon bond right there. And number 1, which is the one that I find the most useful. Where the hell is it? I really don't know what this one looks like. That's none of. Where the bejesus is it? There it is. God, that doesn't look like Pangar weapon at all. Yeah, so number 1 is Pangar. And this is just a phenomenal weapon or ability on any weapon. The Frostbrand does retarded high amounts of damage. It's just absurd. The only downside to it is that it charges every 90 seconds. So if you're speedrunning things, it's a little bit less useful. But I still feel like the fact that it's really powerful and that it goes good on any weapon makes it deserve the number 1 spot. If you disagree with me, go ahead. Let me know what you think your number 1, what you think the number 1 weapon is. If you want to leave that in the comments. And with that, I am going to conclude this video. And I am just short of 500 subscriptions, which is halfway to partner. In the last 4 weeks here, I started with 180 4 weeks ago. So, yeah, I'm at 493 right now. So I've gained. Let's see. This my analytics says 358 subs in the last 4 weeks. So, I love you guys. You guys are. Really bringing my spirits up here and hoping that I can make partner. So if a couple more of you guys sub, I'll be at 500 and I'll be really happy. Also remember, that gets you entered in for my title giveaway that I'm going to be doing very soon here. 2 more days and I'm going to be sending my message out to the winner. And I'll make a short little video on that once they get back to me and I can actually give that to them. It might take a couple days, and then of course if they don't claim their gift, I'll be giving it to somebody else. So, but as soon as I get that out, I'll be posting that, and that's it. I will catch you guys later.